What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more True August, and thus another Waaktaar Wednesday, and we're actually jumping back in time to the True August EP, released in 2019, with songs composed from 2018 up until its release in 2019. It was mixed by John O. Mahoney, who worked on Cast and Steel and Summer Solstice from a-ha. And not only did Sofia share this EP like the Breathing Room album, she also mentioned this is actually the 3-year anniversary of me beginning to react to a-ha. So obviously I've gone through a lot of a-ha during that time, as well as Solo Morten, Solo Mag, Savoy, and more recently True August. So yes, it's been an incredible journey. I wanted to thank the people from the a-ha family who were there from the beginning and are still here now, or at least who were there shortly after the beginning and who remain part of these journeys. And yes, this EP was composed while Augie was attending college at the University of California, and he mentioned that his father was involved in the production as well as the recording. I think it was recorded at the Savoy studios both in New York and in Oslo, so yes, and I think also in Augie's dorm room, or in his setting at the University of California. So the first track, make sure I have this right, the first track is Mount Joy, which there's a lot of mountains in California, and I wouldn't be surprised if there is a Mount Joy, but even if it is not an actual mountain, or even if it is an actual mountain not in California, it sounds like the name of a mountain, which could be, of course, a metaphor, the idea of joy being a mountain that you have to climb, you have to scale, but once you get to the top you can celebrate your achievement and reap the rewards of putting in that effort and journey. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's something like that, and of course, from the point of view of a musician, that seems like it would be a nice concept to pursue, because you have to compose, you have to rework, you have to edit, you have to master, you have to produce, and even at the end of that journey it might not turn out the way you want, but it still might provide some measure of joy. And of course, if you do get everything right, or if it does come to shape just as you envisioned, then it would be particularly joyful. So again, that might have nothing to do with the actual track. It could literally be a tale about climbing a real mountain called Mount Joy, but let's see what I can pick up on a first listen. Oh, and in fact, there's a quote from Augie in this set of notes I have. While working on these songs, I have been inspired by bands like Justice, Blonde Redhead, DIIV, or Div, I'm not sure, Aphex Twin, which incidentally, little side note, my older brother used to listen to Aphex Twin, and although I never really got into the material, I do remember hearing some of the tracks, and it had this alternative industrial electronica type of vibe. But yes, Aphex Twin and Slowdive. And Augie continues, I was drawn to these bands because I wanted to create a specific mood, which was the ambition with this album, based on how they build their soundscapes and write their songs. So he also mentioned my father has been of great help with both the recording and the production. And here we go. So yes, this is the first tune on the True August EP from 2019, and it's called Mount Joy.
More than a few, less than a line. Think I'm okay.
Fascinating and a really interesting opener. Like, first of all, vocally, it sounds a lot like the vocals on Breathing Room. Sonically, it felt pretty different though. Like a lot of tunes on Breathing Room, and again, to the degree that I understood the concept of the title of the album, it felt like a lot of the tracks really had this spacious, large volume, and you could feel the space, the breathing room in the individual songs. This one felt more intense, a bit more cluttered, and again, a bit like edgy, industrial, electronic. Now there's still some elements, again, there's some keyboard lines, both like higher and more pristine, lower, almost like electric organ type sounds, but there's a lot of echo, there's a lot of like reverb and feedback. There's a lot of sounds that are sort of chopped up, and it's like they're sort of spinning or cycling, and the entire experience was almost like being in an inebriated state. And I wonder, because there was that opening 4 lines which were something like more than a few but less than a lot. I think I'm okay, but maybe I'm not. And I'm instantly thinking like, okay, so, it could be about, drinking alcohol or something, which, if you're in the college life, I feel like that's not entirely uncommon. But of course, maybe it's not something so literal. Maybe it's about experiences or attempts at something. And so more than a few, but less than a lot. Maybe I'm okay, maybe I'm getting somewhere with this, but maybe I'm not. So again, I think you could take those lines in some different ways, but immediately my brain went to like, oh, like maybe he's in a sort of delirious state or in an inebriated state, and he thinks he's fine, he's got it, he's cool, he's still under control, but maybe that's his brain trying to rationalize or convince himself when he's actually sort of outside of his own control or inertia. So then later there was like a similar sequence of lines, and I like the first 2 I don't think I heard right. It was like the way my brain took them was something like more than a fear but less than a year, but the second pair was something like, oh, what was it? Of course now I'm going to forget that, but it was oh man, poof, and I'm back. So the 2 lines I was trying to recall was sleepwalking in life, I can't seem to care, or I think just can't seem to care. So that suggests maybe a degree of apathy or almost apoplexy, the idea of just, you can't muster the energy or the feeling that you're supposed to have. So again, sleepwalking in life, it's, you're going through life without really paying attention or being cognizant or experiencing things in the way that it is expected, and then can't seem to care. Again, there's like an apathy, a disconnection between the external and what you're feeling inside. So again, given that the way those first 4 lines rhymed, I'm guessing I have the first 2 of the second 4 wrong. So I'm curious, again, what those might be. Either way, I am intrigued by the songwriting, and to be fair, to the degree I caught the lines in the Journey Through Breathing Room, I enjoyed the the poetry and the figurative meaning that I took away from a lot of the lyrical work on that later album. So it seems, again, from the very beginning of his output, he had a sense or a good penchant for writing lyrics. So either way, I enjoyed the tune, and again, it had a bit of a different feel than a lot of the tunes as I experienced them going through Breathing Room. A bit edgier, a bit more cluttered, a bit more dissonant and chaotic. In any case, from the now suddenly very fussy Luca and I will see you next time. Peace.